Tonight we're going to talk about food. We're going to talk about, the title was 5 healthy foods, and if you notice there in quotes, 5 healthy foods that you should never eat. Okay? So we're going to talk about it, but really what this is, we're going to talk about 5 foods, and I'm going to give you a list of 5 things, but they're really kind of like, if you think about the way we put this together, they're really categories of food. And what I want you to take out of this is it's not just 5 nasty things that you're never going to eat again, but it's going to be, what I'm hoping to do is to teach you about 5 categories of foods so that when you're shopping, you read labels, you look at things and say, is this like one of those 5 things? Should I be eating this? Is this really healthy for me? Or is this just advertising that's telling me that this is healthy, okay? So obviously we could just pick 5 foods that you should never eat, and we could all probably pick 5 things that we eat that we know we should never eat. We're not talking about that. These are things that you probably are eating or that other people that you know are eating, thinking that they're very, very healthy for you and that they're good for you. And in reality, when they break down in your body, they're not doing you any service, okay? So I mean, obviously we could go and pick out like a Big Mac. Is that good for you? No, of course not. Do they taste good? Yes. But are they good for you? No. And you all know that. So these are not going to be those kinds of things. It's not just like, oh, well, I already knew that. And some of the things you might know aren't really healthy for you, but hopefully it'll help you to think a little bit as you're going through the grocery store. Just because it's on TV and they kind of report it as health food doesn't necessarily mean it's really healthy. We'll talk about why. So first, 5 healthy foods you should never eat. Just for fun, let's see what we're up against, okay? Obviously, when we look at what's in the supermarkets and we see what's on TV and what's at the restaurants, there's a lot of things that get reported as healthy. These next examples, nobody's going to argue that they are not healthy, but I just thought they were fun to look at. If you think that our nation is glutton for punishment here in the United States, check out what the fast food companies are subjecting to the Japanese to these days, okay? So for years and years and years, the Japanese, the Hawaiians, the Pacific Islanders, those kinds of people, they're living longer than everybody else, right? If you watch like, oh, the oldest person in the world is living in Japan, and this is, I think those days are coming to an end, and here's why. Here's one of the things that, and these are American companies that are pushing these foods in Japan, but check this out. This massive Burger King beef patty is topped with pepperoni, mozzarella, marinara sauce, stacked on a 9.5-inch sesame seed bun. You cut it up like a pizza. You eat it in wedges, and this is what they're feeding them. But it gets worse. Here's a Domino's pizza topped with grilled eggplant, truffle cheese sauce, thick slabs of premium sirloin steak. It doesn't really sound bad, but I'm sure it's absolutely horrible. The Mega Tamago is essentially a classic double Big Mac with an egg patty, and just to top it off, they slid a little bacon in there too. So I think you get breakfast, lunch, dinner, the whole works. It gets worse. Here's Pizza Hut. These are my favorites, okay? Watch this. On the left, mini bacon-wrapped hot dogs surrounded by a cheesy center topped with mini hamburgers, pepperoni, mushroom, and onions. And if that's not good enough, the one on the right is miniature corn dogs. So if bacon-wrapped hot dogs in your pizza crust aren't enough, they're putting corn dogs in there too. Again, the Japanese are not going to live long. And here's Burger King. On the left, the triple rodeo burger with 6 onion rings, and on the right, to celebrate their 5th anniversary in Japan, you can get 5 hamburger patties on a bun. I think if you threw all of it away and ate the lettuce and the tomato, you'd be okay. But everything else...
What about the onion?
Right, well, the onion's probably okay. The pickles, maybe, they're all right too. But otherwise, so basically from here down, there's 0 nutritional value, a little bit of protein. But so obviously, we can look at stuff like this and know this is not healthy. We can all look at it and we know it's not healthy. It's not a big surprise. So what are the 5 things that we're going to talk about that we don't know that aren't healthy? Because that's really where they get us, right? Anybody knows. Now, don't get me wrong. I bet this is awesome. And I saw those pizza ones, and I'm thinking, maybe if it was at the fair, I might give it a try, you know? Like, but should we be eating those things on a regular basis? Absolutely not. These are obvious, but what I want to help you with tonight is when you do go to the store and you're actually trying to make good choices, what are some things that you might be getting tricked up on that you don't know? So, is it really that ridiculous? The examples we just saw, the decisions are obvious, but they can be dangerous. And in America, a lot of the things that are being pushed on us as being healthy, it's not because they're really healthy, it's because they're profitable. And there's a big difference in this country. And there's a lot of things that when I started to research this stuff, I find out, like, everybody knows, like, what's in a hot dog. You know, it's kind of like the big joke. Like, what's really in a hot dog? Nobody really knows. So you can see ones that now are 100% turkey or 100% beef or whatever that means. But even by law, they don't really have to tell you what's really in some of these things. And I want to talk about some of that stuff. Thanks to advertising, the opportunity to make hundreds of millions of dollars, many companies are pushing foods that are supposed to be healthy but aren't. So here's the deal. When you're buying food, don't just ask, is it natural, right? Heroin is natural. Does it mean it's good for you? No, it's completely natural. It's grown right outside. You know, it's poppy seeds and it's natural. Instead, we should ask, how does this break down in my body, okay? So when you see something in the store that says all natural, big deal. So what? It doesn't really matter if it's all natural. Nicotine is natural. It doesn't mean it's healthy, and you have to know the difference. Stop and think before you purchase food. Can you imagine how this food came to be? So here's a good simple test. Think about things. In other words, when you hold an apple, you know it came from an apple tree. You can imagine how that apple came to be. You've seen blossoms on trees and then the apples form, and it's a natural, healthy thing to eat. Now, if they're covered in pesticides and things like that, that's a different story. But you can imagine how an apple came to be. It looks like an apple. It came from an apple tree. When you think about olive oil, which is also pretty good for you, you can imagine the process. Even if you don't know how olive oil is made, you can imagine that they compress the olive, they squash the oil out of it, they put it in a centrifuge, they separate the olive from the oil, and that's how they get that stuff, right? They pour water out of it, all that kind of stuff. Anybody know how a Dorito is made? Right, so this is what we're talking about, right?
Maybe some corn.
Right, yeah,
maybe.
You're right. We're going to get into that. Yeah,
and add oil.
Right. But when you hold a Dorito, do you look at it and think, corn?
No.
I know. Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't. I don't see the ear of corn in a Dorito, but I know that there's corn in
you,
there.
I don't eat many Doritos.
That's excellent. But they are tasty though, right, Brad?
Those ones with all the cheddar.
Right. Yeah. So here's what's in a Dorito, okay? I thought I'd look it up. If I'm going to use it as an example, I want to educate myself. I want to know what's in a Dorito. Whole corn, okay? And the red is mine. I wrote the red. That's not what you'll see on the bag, okay? So understand that the red is my adding. Whole corn, probably genetically modified, right? You know that PepsiCo and Doritos and these companies, they're going to buy the most for their money. So they're going to buy genetically modified corn, which we know can have its problems. Vegetable oil, so they're not using the good oil. It's not olive oil. It's vegetable oil. So it contains one or more of the following. And watch how many times you're going to see the word corn, okay? So it starts with whole corn. Corn oil, soybean oil, or sunflower oil, which we also know are really not the best for you, especially corn and soybean oil. Corn maltodextrin, which is just a corn byproduct. So far we've got 3 corns. Salt, tomato powder, corn starch, there's number 4. Lactose, which is a funny way of disguising sugar, right? That's milk sugar. Whey, which is another milk byproduct, so it's also going to have sugar in it. Non-fat milk, which is sugar with the good fat removed, right? So what's good about milk is the milk fat, right? That's what's really good for us. That's why babies grow so fast, because they're getting that good milk fat from mom. So they take the fat out and you get what's left. Corn syrup, which is sugar, and I think that's the 5th time we've seen corn. Onion powder, sugar. I love this. At least I just put in there, at least they're being honest. When they just finally just put in, okay, here's all these disguised sugars, but we're putting just regular sugar in too. Garlic powder, monosodium glutamate, cheddar cheese, which again is sugar, right?
What is monosodium glutamate?
That's on the next slide. Monosodium glutamate, I think I have it in here.
Is that MSG?
Yes, it's MSG, and yeah, I thought I broke it down in here. Yes. And that's the stuff that's in like a lot of Chinese food, and a lot of people have a really hard time breaking down MSG. Back to it again. I will get off of Doritos here pretty soon. But I just thought this was funny. So malic acid, buttermilk, which is more sugar, and then they just say natural and artificial flavors. So we don't even really know. It's just natural and artificial flavors. They just throw some in there. Sodium acetate, artificial color. It goes on and on and on and on. But these disodium inosinate and disodium guanylate, both are flavorings derived from fish. Did you know that there was fish flavoring in tacos? Or in Doritos? I've had fish tacos before, but I didn't know it was in Doritos. It's not recommended for babies or asthmatics because it's so inflammatory. So those are things we got to know. So obviously this goes in more. It talks about what vegetable oil, corn maltodextrin, corn syrup solids, malic acid. We could beat this to death, but we understand that that's not good for us. So let's get into some of the other things. in all the 5 foods that we're going to talk about, the 5 categories that we're going to talk about, I really want you to understand that sugar is the enemy when we get to this point, okay? Now, is a little sugar in our diet okay? Yeah, a small amount of sugar in our diet. Natural sugars, sugars in fruits, sugars in foods, they're normal and they're natural. We'll talk about why it's okay to have some of that. But one of the things that American food companies do is they load stuff with sugar. Never mind the salt and all that kind of stuff. Let's just talk about sugar as being this primary enemy. And in reality, if we're going to really talk about what's killing this country, it's obesity, right? That's what's driving all the problems. We're seeing inflammatory diseases, heart diseases, diabetes. We're seeing lots of things, but we're just really getting ambushed all the time with what we eat. We don't even really know how much sugar. I mean, we were just looking at Doritos. Doritos are a salty snack, right? They're not chocolate covered whatever. It's a salty snack, and like 5 or 6 times we saw sugar, 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 sugar in the way it breaks down in your body. So that's a big deal. Increased sugar intake. Oh, I want you to understand how things that are low in fat or high in vitamins, all that kind of stuff, look and see how much sugar is added to them and in ways that they can kind of disguise sugar. Increased sugar intakes cause an increase in insulin production. And basically, insulin is used to remove sugar from the blood. I think most everybody understands that diabetics have insulin issues, right? It's that insulin balance and that sugar balance, but does everybody understand how insulin works in your body? Basically, when you ingest sugar and it gets into your bloodstream, insulin is used to drive that sugar into fat storage, okay? So you either burn it or your body needs to store it. And if you have too high of a sugar spike, your body's going to look at it. You can't run with that much sugar in your blood if it goes up above a certain point. So your body releases insulin to help store that sugar in fat. And that's where a lot of fat tissue and a lot of that stuff comes from. And that's why that sugar gets stored away. But that's not the only thing. Like if you think about we've talked a lot about high fructose corn syrup. Some of you who have been here to other talks, we talk about it a lot. That's one of the sugars that your body automatically just, boom, throws it into fat. It can't digest it. It doesn't recognize it, and so it just stores it as fat. So anything where you see high fructose corn syrup, it's kind of a dangerous way to get sugar, but it's very, very sweet, it's very, very cheap, and a lot of companies use it as a sweetener. So be careful with that stuff. And it's really, really big in leading to like pre-diabetic and diabetic stages. So a lot of the times with kids, when you're seeing this spike in adolescent diabetes, I think if we just removed the high fructose corn syrup from a lot of their diets, they would probably be just fine. You know, if they were eating natural foods, it's not the amount of food they're eating, it's what they're eating. You know what loves sugar? Brad and bacteria. Those are kind of cute little bacteria, right? Like I wanted to get a slide of bacteria, and I thought, oh, I could put real bacteria, but I thought these were kind of cute. So bacteria love sugar. So that's a big problem with diabetics, right? Why do diabetics have to watch their feet and stuff like that all the time? Is because that's where sugar pools in their bloodstream, and that's where bacteria gets to it, and it starts to eat all that tissue down there. And that's why diabetics oftentimes get rotten feet. So that's why they're so watching they gotta go to the podiatrist, and they gotta get their toenails clipped right, and they gotta soak their feet, and they gotta keep their feet extremely clean. And if they get cuts in their feet, if you're a diabetic, that's a huge deal, because if infection gets in there, that's where that blood pools and all that sugar sits, and that's why they oftentimes end up getting their legs amputated, their feet amputated, and their toes, and it's because of bacteria, not just the diabetes. So that's a big problem. When they get an infection, especially in the lower appendage, diabetics have to watch that very carefully. But you know what? That affects everybody. Bacteria love sugar. So if you've got a child who's sick and they keep getting infections, get them off the sugar. Every time you give a child sugar, you're feeding that infection, feeding that infection, feeding that infection. You're keeping them sick. So a lot of times when kids are sick, one of the first things we'll tell parents, no milk. I mean, that's probably not a bad idea anyway, but especially in the Midwest, it's hard to get people off of milk. But especially a sick kid, if a kid's struggling with an infection or bronchitis, or they're sick, or they just can't get healthy, get them off the milk, because milk does 2 things. Number 1, it's sugar, and number 2, it's inflammatory. And a lot of people don't handle milk as well as we think they should. So then they get all gunky and stuffed up, and they just can't get over these infections. Get them off the milk as soon as possible.
How do you recommend that? Because we've been trying to help our daughter with her 2 grandsons to eliminate or reduce sugar in their diet, and the toddler still wants milk more than the 3-year-old does. And juice isn't good for them, so just water.
Right, just water.
Okay.
Yep. And if you have to give them juice, just water it down.
Yeah, we do. I mean,
We,
it's like,
yeah,
it's
they love
barely
orange
any
juice, so
in it.
we 60/40 at 60 water,
Yeah.
40.
Or I do more.
Yeah, she does more, but
Okay.
10% juice and 90%.
Yeah, and a lot of times they don't even know the difference.
as long as it's got that orange color to it, they're happy.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a good way to start, and then just getting them switched over to as much water as you can, or just limiting the availability of it, you know. Kids will drink when they're thirsty, and if orange juice is available, and I'm not actually orange juice is one of the things we're going to talk about, so we'll get into that a little bit more. But, okay, so here we are, bacteria loves sugar, so we're going to talk about these 5 foods, okay? So we're going to start with this one, whole wheat bread. Whole wheat bread is healthy, right? Nope.
That's what I tell him.
Right. Whole wheat bread really isn't any better than white bread when it breaks down inside your body. And actually, when I really started getting into this stuff, this kind of surprised me because I watch TV and I see the advertisements and whole grains and whole wheat and all that stuff. There's a difference, though, between whole wheat and whole grain. We're going to talk about that in just a second, okay? So you got to be careful when you read when you start reading the outside of the packages. But this is what everybody says, but it's whole wheat. I've had so many people this week ask me, what are the 5 foods? I can't make it Tuesday night. What are the 5 foods? And if I know they really can't make it, I'll tell them. And one of the things I'll say is, well, whole wheat bread. No, no, my doctor says whole wheat's good for me. And I watch TV and whole wheat is good for me. Well, whole grains in limited amounts, yes, are okay for you. We need some of that stuff. First of all, we're not talking about gluten here, okay? If you have gluten issues, you got to get away from wheat altogether, right? Gluten is tough for a lot of people, and getting rid of gluten is a good idea. So this isn't about gluten, we're talking about sugar. So it's definitely true that whole wheat flour is more nutritious than refined or white flour. Anytime you break down the flour or the grain and you bleach it out and you take all the stuff out of it like white bread does, white bread is essentially styrofoam with no value whatsoever. So if you're eating it, it's a filler and it's sugar. You just well be sucking down teaspoons of sugar as to eat white bread as far as its nutritional value. Now, can it fill your stomach? When we were at school and I went to public school and they wanted to fill you up, they just kept slamming white bread down your throat, and we just eat it because, you know, it was a filler. It was something to eat. But its nutritional value is 0. White bread is a waste of time. And we find out here that a lot of these whole wheats are no better. If you tolerate sugar well, definitely choose 100% whole grain bread. It has more fiber and all kinds of nutrients, but whole wheat and white bread have essentially the same impact on blood sugar. So the thing is, if you eat a slice of whole wheat bread or a piece of white bread, your blood sugar will spike the same way. There's just so much sugar. It's such a carbohydrate that breaks down into sugar inside your body. It's really not healthy. And as I got into some of this stuff, yes, if you're going to choose bread, if you were going to choose white or wheat, but lean towards whole grain, not just whole wheat. You're better off choosing whole wheat over traditional white bread just because of some of the nutrients in it. But anytime wheat is refined or enriched, it means that the grain's been, the nutrients from the grain have been modified or removed. The phytonutrients are gone. Whole wheat bread still breaks down the system in sugar. There's a difference between whole wheat and whole grain. This is what I wanted to get to. In many countries, in order to be called whole wheat, it only has to contain 51% of the wheat kernel. Isn't that funny?
Oh, really?
When you call it whole, don't you think it should be 100%?
Yeah.
But that's not the way it has to be. The law is different than what the packaging states. So it doesn't always have to have a whole wheat in it. So in whole grain, if you find it to say whole grain, then supposedly the whole grain kernel is still intact. So you're still going to get your sugar spike, but at least you're going to get some of the nutrients from the grain kernel, okay? So the moral of this is, if you can cut bread out of your diet, just do it, because it's really not that beneficial. But if you have to be a bread eater, limit your consumption of bread and try to stay with the wholest grains possible.
Like Ezekiel,
What's that?
Ezekiel bread?
Yeah, and anything, and oftentimes if you make it yourself, you're going to be able to keep it a little bit more whole than what you're getting from the processed stuff from the stores. But a lot of us don't have time to make bread either, so just eliminating it is a good idea. Other common offenders are cereal, cracker, granolas, pasta. A lot of times, being an athlete, a lot of us talk about carbo loading. And if you're going to do an Ironman or a marathon or a half marathon, carb loading a little bit is okay, you'll get some benefit, but for the average person going to the gym and doing 20 minutes on the treadmill, you can't even come close to burning the sugar in a bowl of pasta. Do not carbo load unless you are going to push your body past its brink. Otherwise, it's really not healthy for you. So a lot of people, they'll be like, oh, I got to get up and go for a jog tomorrow morning, I better eat pasta. First of all, you have to eat it 2 days in advance in order for it to be really healthy, in order for it to get an effect. So eating it the night before really doesn't do that much for you other than the sugar rush that you get. But what they're finding is unless you're really going to go and slug it out, and I mean really push your body to the brink, carbo loading really isn't that beneficial. It's not that helpful. Most Americans get way too many carbs. But we'll talk about where you can get carbs from that are better for you. Pretzels and chips, of course, but pasta and even whole wheat pasta can break down into sugar just the same way as bread. So be careful with pasta. It's not a healthy food. What do I do? We don't necessarily need to remove all the carbohydrates from our diets. Obviously, our bodies are built to run on some carbohydrates, and they can be a quick source of energy. But look for whole grain breads or even breads made with sprouted grains or spelt bread. Has anybody ever heard of spelt? Spelt is kind of a sprouted grain. It's a different kind of thing. And you can get spelt in some natural and whole food stores. So if you like to bake your own bread, that can be a better source. And basically what they're looking for is if the carbohydrate breaks down slowly or it has some fiber with it, it's usually a little better for you. It's easier for your body to absorb that sugar from those kinds of things. So these are things that you can look for that might be beneficial. You're probably not going to get spelt at Subway. You know, what kind of bread do you want? Oh, I'd like it on spelt. We never heard of it. So, I mean, just be careful with those kinds of things. But here's another option. If you're a carb lover and you got to have some carbs in your diet, I'll ask you this first. Has anybody ever done like a metabolic testing, or like to find out like what your body type is, like what kind of foods you eat? They can actually classify you whether you're a carb, a protein, or a mixed type of a person. There's all kinds of stuff online you can do, and I did a couple of them over the weekend just to kind of answer some. Metabolic typing, I think, is what they call it. So if you Google metabolic typing, it ranges. So one of the ones I did was like 10 questions. One of them I did was like 25 questions, and it even gets into like personality traits, like I feel happiest in the morning, or I feel happiest at night, or when I eat a big meal of protein, I feel energetic, sluggish, you know, whatever. And it kind of tries to type your body a little bit as to how you process food. And I thought it was kind of interesting because I'm a protein eater, and that's what it found for me. My wife is a carbohydrate eater. She does a little better on carbs, and she doesn't eat as much protein, and she actually does better when she's not protein loading. But me, I'm the kind of guy that I can take protein down pretty seriously, and carbs aren't that big a deal to me. So that's kind of a fun thing to do. But if you have to have your carbs, substitute with healthier choices like sweet potatoes or vegetables. They still contain carbohydrates but have more fiber and actually burn fat. So when you're getting your carbs from vegetables or sweet potatoes, you can actually burn fat by burning those carbohydrates. You can actually burn fat in your body. So eating things like sweet potatoes and raw vegetables actually drive the fat burning process in your body. That's why the cleanse that we have is so vegetable focused, not so much fruit. It's more veggies. We want you eating lots of green vegetables and stuff like that because it drives this process in your body, okay? So you can burn a lot of fat by eating a lot of vegetables. Food number 2, orange juice. Orange juice is good for you, right?
My husband's downfall. He has to have his orange juice in the morning.
Yeah.
I've tried everything.
And I think so many of us are raised that way, right? Like orange juice is this healthy way to get vitamin C, you know, and certainly the Florida orange growers are doing their part to make sure that we think that. And orange juice is not the devil. It's not, you know, but it's really not good for you. It's really a big sugary drink. And I'll get into that here in just a little bit. OJ is bad. If you have to choose between orange juice and Coca-Cola, OJ is the better choice, right? Really? Look at this. Here we go. If you can't see this, I'll go down the line here. It gives a couple of sugary sodas: Sprite, Pepsi, Coca-Cola Classic, and Gatorade. And some of you have seen some of our stuff up here, so you already know this. But it talks about calories, but here's the grams of sugar. Sprite is 26, Pepsi is 28, Coke is 27, Gatorade is 14. So Coke and Pepsi, 26, 27, 28 grams of sugar. Check out orange juice right here, 21 grams of sugar.
Isn't that natural sugar?
Yes, but I'm going to talk about that. Yep. But we'll talk about that. Grape juice is the worst offender at 36. You would be better off drinking Coke, as far as sugar goes, than grape juice. Pineapple's high, cranberry, apple, they're all right up there. Orange juice, 21 grams of sugar. So,
Wow, all that stuff so good.
right. If you have sugar problems, stay away from your juices. They're not really very good. So what about my vitamin C? A common misconception is that orange juice is loaded with vitamin C. It does have vitamin C, but only because they add it back in. Okay? So when they process the orange, what they do is they squeeze it, they pull all the liquid out, and they throw away all the good stuff, right? The pulp, the fiber, the really good meaty part of the orange, that's what they're throwing away. And then they go and pasteurize it, right? Because they got to kill all the bacteria. So basically what they do is they take this juice that still has some vitamins in it, and then they heat it and they kill everything in it. Same thing they do when they pasteurize milk, by the way. Milk is dead. There isn't really a lot of health benefits in milk because it's a dead product. When you pasteurize things, you heat it up and you kill everything. Now what happens in proteins and vitamins, when you heat them up, they break open, they contort, they change their shape. Heat kills that kind of stuff. That's why we always encourage people to eat your vegetables raw or lightly steamed. The more intact it is, the more the vitamins you get from it. Okay? So orange juice is essentially dead. Heat denatures the vitamins and the nutrients further because they remove all the pulp or most of it, which contains the fiber. The sugar in OJ is absorbed very rapidly. So here's the answer to your question. When you take orange juice, what they're doing is they're pulling the liquid out of the orange, and that's where all the sugar is contained. They condense it all down, they heat it and kill all the good stuff in it, and it's all this condensed sugar. Now it's fructose, which is, yes, natural sugar, just like sugar cane is natural sugar. But what happens is, because it's so condensed and so sugar rich, and there's no fiber from the orange anymore, your body immediately sucks that in, and your insulin will spike dramatically when you drink it.
Which is why they give it to diabetics for blood sugar level.
Yes, because it's an immediate blood sugar rush. Your blood sugar will spike immediately if you drink orange juice. So yes, orange juice is great for a diabetic if they're in a diabetic crash.
Okay.
Yep. So, talking about that, fiber helps absorb sugar slowly, okay?
So eat the orange
Eat the
and
orange.
stay away from the juice.
Perfect. Yep. If you got to have your orange in the morning, eat it as an orange, because when you're getting all that pulp and all that fiber slows down the absorption of sugar in your body. It spreads it out over time. Plus you get fiber, which is great. We all could use a lot more fiber in our diets, especially if you have colon health issues. So eat the orange, okay? If you got to have your orange juice, suck it out, eat the pulp, and do the whole thing. So yeah, otherwise it's just too much fructose all at once. What do people drink when they're getting sick? Orange juice, right?
Mm-hmm.
Getting sick, getting a little cold, better hit the orange juice, right? Then what happens? Remember what bacteria love to eat more than anything else in this whole world? Sugar. So you take a kid that's got the sniffles and they're sick and they're kind of coming down with some stuff, and you give them milk and orange juice, and you pretty much just seal their fate. They're going to have to go through
You're
sickness.
feeding his
You're feeding
bacteria.
Yep.
Water?
Water.
Wow.
Yep.
Not even like for little kids Pedialyte, because that's probably one of the sugar.
And most of those kids are not electrolyte deficient, you know, not in a short illness.
Okay.
You know, if you're talking long-term illness and they've been sick a long, long time and they're completely depleted, then I have less of a problem giving them a little bit of an electrolyte of some kind. But most kids, if they've just been sick a day or two, they're not going to be completely electrolyte deficient. And most kids will start eating within a day or so. Their body's pretty smart. But water is the best way to go, flush that system. So OJ is very, very, very high in sugar, and bacteria love sugar. How do I get my vitamin C? Eat an orange, right? Oranges are loaded with vitamin C as long as you eat them the way nature intended. But here's the cool thing: if you're just a vitamin C person, if you love oranges, eat your oranges. That's fine. It's okay. They're good for you. But if you just really want vitamin C, eat vegetables. They've got a lot more vitamin C than oranges do. For instance, sweet red peppers. Does anybody like red bell peppers?
Yeah.
Loaded with vitamin C. The darker the color, the better it is. Tomatoes, and I know strawberries are a fruit too, but they're high in vitamin C. Brussels sprouts, cantaloupe, broccoli, greens like that have high vitamin C. So I love sweet red peppers, and if you eat, you cut them in strips or whatever and eat them for a snack, great way to get some serious vitamin C. And In general, the darker your color your vegetables are, the more loaded with vitamins they are. So you get all kinds of really cool stuff. Okay? Here's another big one, fat-free salad dressing, right? Now this one might not shock a lot of people. Do you know what they add to fat-free salad dressing to make it taste so good?
Sugar.
Fat-free
makes everything.
Sugar is everybody's friend, right?
I actually had an argument with Cal at work because she, Tweety, and she eats candy, and hard candy a lot. And I'm like, she's like, but it's fat-free, and I'm like, but sugar turns to fat.
Right.
And she just, no,
Right.
it's fat-free. She just, I couldn't get it into her head.
Right, and I'm going to talk about that right now, why. I'll give you some more ammunition when we go back to work here in just a second. But there is a problem with that, and it's not all about counting calories. If you ate all natural food all the time, you'd throw your calculator away and never count a calorie as long as you live, right? Because if you were eating all really good stuff, your body would crave good vegetables, good fruits, good meats, good stuff, and you would really never have to count calories again. The reason people have to watch calories is if you're eating a lot of sugar, it's tons of calories. And then when you look at the equation, how many calories did I burn today? If you didn't burn as many as you took in, you're going to gain weight. And I don't care if it's fat-free or not. You could eat fat-free every day for the rest of your life and still gain weight because it's high in calories. And that's just an advertising gimmick. It's a trick. They'll tell you, oh, fat-free, but fat's not bad, right? Anybody ever eat an avocado? Are they good for you? They're amazing. And you know what they're loaded in? Fat. But it's good fat. It's really, really good. It nourishes your brain. It's one of the first foods we're giving our daughter is avocado because it's high in omega-3s. It's got all this good stuff. It's high in fat.
And
And
squishy, soft, green
Mhm.
inside.
yep.
Like
Yeah.
mixed with tomatoes and onions.
Oh yeah, that's really good. Yeah, when you put it in guac, it really gets good. But yeah, that's a lot of things people talk about. Oh, it's high in fat, but it's really, really good, high quality fat. Just like butter. It's got fat, but it's good fat. You know, it's not so bad to have a little real butter. So we're talking about sugar here. Did you know that putting fat-free salad dressing on your salad can actually prevent you from absorbing all the nutrients in that salad, negating the health benefit?
Really?
Here's why. Many vitamins are fat soluble, meaning in order to take them into your system and pull them into your body, you need a little fat along with it. That's what dissolves the vitamin and helps you absorb it. So vitamins A, D, E, and K, or ADAC for short, are absorbed in the intestinal tract with the help of fat molecules, which means having a fat-free salad dressing will actually decrease the bioavailability of these nutrients as you munch on your salad. So if you want to get the nutrients from your salad, you got to have a little bit of fat with it. So
So regular dressing.
a little regular dressing or an
Olive oil.
olive oil-based dressing. And we'll talk about that. I got a recipe up here for a really good. Yeah, olive oil and vinegar type vinaigrettes, those
Yeah.
kinds of things. But look for stuff with really good, high-quality extra virgin olive oil in it is usually the best way to get that natural fat because olive oil is really good for you as well. Can everybody read that?
Furthermore,
Basically, it's what's a non-fat dressing made from, and sorry, this gets down here, but it's primarily water, but then it's additionally to maintain the semblance of an oil-based dressing, and they're talking about a fat-free oil dressing here, Kraft fat-free Italian dressing. It's water, vinegar, number 3, high fructose corn syrup, then just regular corn syrup, salt, cheese, whey, phosphoric acid, it goes down the line, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, buttermilk, caramel color, it goes on and on.
so it's got a lot of sugar.
It's got a ton of sugar in it, and I said here at the bottom, basically it's a liquid Dorito, because a lot of the ingredients that were in Doritos are in these fat-free salad dressings. Because if they just remove all the fat, it tastes like crap, right? So in order to get you to eat fat-free, they got to put a bunch of sugar back in it because it's still fat-free, but it's high in calories and it's really bad for your body. So yeah, high fructose corn syrup is the 3rd and the 4th ingredients. Like they couldn't get enough in by the 3rd ingredient, so they had to put it as the 4th ingredient too. They're sweetened up. So what should I do if you love your salads? Here's some options. A simple and effective suggestion is buy a bottle of good extra virgin olive oil and a few lemons, right? At home, make your own dressing as followed. In a mixing bowl, add equal parts olive oil and fresh squeezed lemon juice, Salt and pepper to taste. Pour it over your salad and toss just before serving, so you can make small batches of it at a time, okay? If you're more courageous and you want to try adding a combination, you can put in a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, minced clove of garlic, some balsamic vinegar, sometimes a teaspoon of honey, or they put sugar here, I don't agree. A little honey can sweeten it and take the acidic bite out of it. So if you need to sweeten it just a little bit, put honey in it. Just a little bit of honey, because honey is great. It's a great source of some of that natural sugar. Honey's really good for you. Or just eat regular salad dressing, just don't eat so much of it. You know, if you're at a restaurant and they've got a salad bar and you want to have a salad, if they don't have a really good option for you and you want to have a little salad, it's okay to have just a little bit of salad dressing. There's all these things are in it too, so you got to be careful with it. But I think you're still better off eating the regular fat than the non-fat. Just don't eat so much. Here's the next one: baked potato chips. This is kind of a big kick, right? Because even at Jason's, you know, they have the option. You can get regular chips or baked chips. Well, you always think, well, if it's baked, it must be better because then it's not swimming in oil, right? Not really. It's not really better for you. It's just a different version of the same thing. It's just not dyed in these oils. So they're really not that healthy. Baked potato chips suffer from the same problems as low-fat salad dressings. Many of them are loaded with sugar and additional high fructose corn syrup. If you read a lot of those things, like Doritos had high fructose corn syrup in it, but so do a lot of these baked chips because they got to sweeten them. Fat, remember, here's the thing. Fat doesn't make you fat, okay? The TV will tell you different. Oh my gosh, you're eating a high-fat diet, you're going to be fat. That's not really true. If you're eating high-quality fats, you will not be fat. You'll be well-nourished. Your brain will work really well, and you'll have good neurons and good synapses because things will work appropriately. Your body needs some fat. It just needs high quality. Do we want to eat bucket loads of real fat? Not necessarily. But if you're going to eat some fat, eat some real fat. If you must eat a chip, but just eat fewer of them. Baked potato chips are pretty much void of nutrients. So some people are just chip eaters, you know, just try to back it down, you know. Obviously, we can't necessarily say to some people you absolutely cannot have it, even though it'd be good. But if you got to have them, just limit them. But you're probably just as well to eat the regular and get the taste that you really want rather than eating the baked because they're not really that much better. Healthier options. If you want to try something different and you want to satisfy that urge to eat a chip, baked apple chips. There's lots of different recipes on the internet for baked apple chips and things that you can put on them, like cinnamon or stuff like that. Dried banana chips. Those are a favorite of mine. I love dried banana chips. They've got a really nice texture to them. Are they super, super healthy? Maybe not, but I think they're better than potato chips. And taro chips. So that's like the white, fleshy root vegetable. I'm not terribly familiar with taro. I just saw this with some of the research I was looking at. But it does have more vitamin E, so it's better than regular potatoes. They say you can get a lot of times at like Asian or Latino food markets and things like that. You can get taro. So if you want to make them at home, you can slice them up and bake them. The best solution if you're a snacker, popcorn. Much better than potato chips. And here's why. Popcorn, somebody else wrote this, not me. Popcorn may be the perfect snack food. It's the only snack that's 100% unprocessed whole grain. All other grains are processed and diluted with other ingredients, and although cereals are called whole grain, it simply means that over 51% of the weight of the product is whole grain. One serving of popcorn will provide more than 70% of your daily intake of whole grain. The average person only gets about half a serving of whole grains a day, and popcorn can fill that gap in a pleasant way. Popcorn also has antioxidants, in some cases as much as a fruit. And just make sure it's air popped, so don't pop it in a bunch of nasty oil, right?
What about olive oil?
Well, I guess if you wanted to use a really healthy extra virgin olive oil, that would probably be your best option for oil popping. But they just recommend air popping.
But you know, if you air pop it, all the salt, the ingredients we add to it don't stick.
They don't stick very well, do they? So here's one of those things though, but even if you look at it that way and you say, okay, if I'm going to eat something and I'm going to choose either a bag of Doritos or popcorn with a little oil and salt and stuff on, this is still a far better choice. So don't feel so guilty about it, you know? There are things that we can eat that really aren't all that bad, but this is a better choice. Popcorn at least has, It's got some fiber to it. It's got some antioxidants in it. It's got more of a whole grain texture, so better choice. So if you like to eat popcorn,
You can add a little butter to your coffee, right?
sure. Why not?
A little butter's good.
Sure. A little bit of real butter probably won't kill you. Again, it's all about, are you going to eat this or are you going to eat that? And between the two, I would take that every day.
So this, what we're learning tonight, kind of explains why my grandmother lived to be 100 years old and she cooked in yard every day.
You know, people talk about that all the time, you know? Yeah.
They didn't eat junk food.
Right.
No.
They ate pie made with lard in the crust.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that, I
They
think that's
also
very
worked
true.
a lot harder than we did out on
Yeah.
the farm,
Yes.
that we don't. So
Yeah.
that's
Fruits
a
and
big
vegetables
thing.
that they grew,
Right.
Yes.
you know.
Yeah, and grew and canned and took care of all their own
Yeah.
stuff, and their food didn't come from very far away, you know, and that's a big deal, you know, when stuff is shipped from, when you're eating tomatoes from Argentina, and they picked them when they were green, and they sprayed them with chemicals to make them ripen on the boat while they were on their way over, they're probably not as good for you as a tomato that you picked out of your own backyard and
That's why
was
the
red by the sun.
fresh ones taste so much better.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Just like hormone-free, antibiotic-free chicken tastes amazing. Holy smokes, you throw that on the grill, wow, is it good.
Really?
Yeah.
Blows your mind, yeah. Go to Whole Foods and get some real chicken or some real beef and throw it on the grill and tell me there's not a difference. It's
Is that like the smart chicken like Hy-Vee would sell? I know they sell smart chicken at Hy-Vee.
I don't know what that
Starting to
means.
sell more free-range
Yeah.
meats and,
Uh-huh.
and wild-caught
Uh-huh.
fish and stuff.
I haven't seen that yet,
Okay.
so I can't comment on that.
Okay.
But I was just at Whole Foods this weekend,
Yeah.
and just looking through there, they got a lot of really great choices. And I'm not against Hy-Vee, I shop at Hy-Vee too,
Mhm.
and they are getting more of that stuff, but it's all consumer demand.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, these other stores in town are gonna start carrying a whole lot more of that stuff, just because Whole Foods came to town. And Trader Joe's came to town, and they carry a lot of that stuff too.
And because you guys are educating people,
There you
and
go.
the demand is
We're
going
gonna
up.
change the world,
You
yeah,
know?
absolutely. You know, and I think as people have it available and it's easier to get, they're gonna want it. And when you taste that kind of stuff, we just decided to start feeding my baby some solids. So we went to Whole Foods and got organic, farm fresh eggs, no antibiotics, you know, pasture raised, all that stuff. We're just soft boiling it and feeding her the yolk. Because it's high in omega-3s, it's easily digestible. So that's her first food. We didn't give her rice cereal. Rice cereal is styrofoam, you know. It's just a filler. There's no nutritional value whatsoever. And I'm not harping on people who do that. Everybody's got to make their own choices. But if I'm going to put something in her mouth, I want it to at least give her some nutritional value. So she's still getting breast milk, but now that she's getting teeth, we're starting to practice the eating. So it's a great place to get some of that stuff.
And I do have to say, that thought has changed a lot with regular medical doctors, because when our kids were little, they said, oh, give them cereal, you know?
Mhm.
But with our 3 grandchildren, they're 4, 3, and almost 2, all 3 doctors said, don't give them any cereal. So that's one plus that I have heard from the medical doctors. So.
Yeah, and I think they're getting on the bandwagon too. They're starting to see, you know, because I'll bet maybe they don't feed their kids that stuff. You know, if you really want to be healthy, you know, I think just a lot of times people still give kids that because that's what their parents gave them, and it's the status quo, and it's what you give your baby first. Well, that's really not the best
Well, it's
idea.
advertised, Gerber advertises their
Right.
cereal
Little
on
vitamins.
TV every day, you know?
Right. What's really cool though is if you look at the back of the package of baby formulas, the first thing it says is breast milk is still best. But so even they're even having to say now, okay, we understand that really, but it's unfortunate that, you know, for some people it doesn't work or whatever. We're not here to judge that, but it really is best. And then these natural foods are also best. And if it's good for their babies, it's good for us too, right? So we were talking with some people this weekend, and we talked about that we went to Whole Foods and bought some eggs. And they said, well, how much were the eggs? And I said, I don't know, they're like 3 something a dozen. Woo, that's high. I'd rather just go to Hy-Vee or whatever and pick up my regular eggs. And I'm thinking, for 20 or 30 cents for a dozen eggs, I don't know, how much does cancer cost? How much does Alzheimer's cost?
Well, it's a
How much
little
does
more than that.
Parkinson's?
You can get a dozen for 79 cents.
Right.
But they're full of
On sale.
chemicals
Right.
and grains.
Yes, and that's where ultimately people are going to have to decide. You know, it's just like in chiropractic. We talk about that all the time. Does it cost money to get your family adjusted? Yes. But what are the alternatives? What's it going to cost you to be sick? You know, what if you miss a day of work? What if you miss a day of work every month? What if you You know, what if you're sick? What if you need medical care because you have cancer or because you have, what does that cost? You know, so it's just like chiropractic, or it's just like joining the gym and exercising, or getting a better pair of running shoes every 6 months. These are things that you do to help promote your health, and I think it's worth a little extra money. But everybody has to make that choice. That's not very moving on here. Sorry. There we go. Oh, vitamin water. Everybody heard of this stuff?
Never tried it.
Okay, vitamin water is sugar water, is what it is, okay? And I'm not, I don't, this isn't the target crowd for vitamin water. The target crowd for vitamin water is the teens and the early 20s and that stage. They think this stuff is great because water is the big kick, right? Everybody's drinking water, so let's throw some vitamins in it and make it even healthier. The problem is they also load it with sugar because it makes it taste better. So this stuff is dangerous because it's promoted as health food. And they're making billions of dollars selling this stuff. So it's just water and vitamins, right? The big red flag here is the sugar. There are 13 grams of sugar in one serving.
Wow.
In one serving. That's the key. These bottles are huge. There's 2.5 servings in a bottle. So if there's 13 grams of sugar in one, an entire bottle contains 32.5 grams of sugar. For the sake of comparison, a can of Coke Classic contains about 39 grams of sugar. Because of the sugar found in vitamin water or Coke, it's made from refining or purifying process. It contains no nutrients or anything whatsoever. So again, this is all refined, this is all boiled down, this is all sugared up to the hilt. Once anything with sugar is ingested, the sugar skips the digestion by passing through the stomach wall, raising blood sugar levels, which can be a precursor to diabetes. We just talked about that a little bit ago. So besides the huge amount of sugar, each bottle has 100 to 125 calories. Compared to a regular Coke that contains around 140, it's pretty substantial. The sweet calories are so eager to increase your weight if you drink vitamin water regularly. So be careful with this stuff. But you also have to be careful, like if you go drink like Propel Fitness water, 0 calories because it doesn't have sugar. You know what it has? Artificial sweeteners in it. So you got to be really careful of that stuff too, because NutraSweet, sucralose, all these things are rat poison. If you want to get a significant mental disorder when you get older, Alzheimer's, that kind of stuff, drink a lot of artificial sweeteners. Drink a ton of Diet Coke and watch what happens to these people who are 6-pack a day Diet Coke drinkers. They're going to be very, very, very sick when they get older because NutraSweet is terrible stuff. It's really rotten. I even tell people, if you got to have your Coke, drink a regular one because as nasty as it is, at least it doesn't have NutraSweet in it.
Well, and you know that you make a point with the artificial sweeteners and all that. When I went over to Africa, you couldn't find a Diet Coke anywhere. They only had regular, but you never saw anybody obese or overeating.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's just a matter of time. They probably haven't figured out how to market it to them yet.
Yeah.
Because you can bet when companies like that saturate the market in the United States, they're going to look global, and they're going to push this stuff on them. So it's coming. Just like the Japanese now are getting pizza with corn dogs as crust. You know, they're going to go to all these countries. You know, it's interesting when you look at. I saw a thing a number of years ago on TV, and they were talking about Hawaii and Native Hawaiians. And if you see now on TV, a lot of Native Hawaiians are really, really obese, like really huge. That is not their natural state. They're not supposed to be that big. They were thin, athletic, you know, people. But Polynesians and Hawaiians have gotten big once America took it over and we started Americanizing their diets. You know, I think is the #1 food eaten in Hawaii now, I think, is Spam. Am I wrong about that? Or I think
Don't tell me
that's right.
Spam's bad.
Can you tell me what's in Spam?
Probably like hot dogs.
Yeah, special ham
Special.
and salt.
Right. And if you're from Minnesota like me, that's Austin, Minnesota is where they make Spam. I ate Spam growing up. We made it in pizza burgers and we fried Spam and put a slice of cheese. And I like Spam. Like it really tastes good, but it is full of garbage. Like, I mean, you want to talk about processed. That stuff is processed. Sorry, Brad. So I think if I remember correct on that show, it said that that's like Hawaii is like the #1 consumer of Spam now. And if you see what's happened to the Hawaiians, I mean, they're dying. Like we killed them. not you and I personally, but our culture killed them. And they're all really, really obese, and they're having significant medical problems now throughout their whole culture because of the Americanized food that they're eating. They're not designed to eat that kind of stuff. And most Asians and Pacific Islanders are not supposed to drink milk pretty much at all. Like, that's not good for their genetics.
Unless
Like,
it's coconut milk.
right, maybe that's okay. But like, you know, my ancestors are from Holland. So milk and cheese and chocolate pretty much run through your veins. So can my genetic type handle that stuff a little bit better? Maybe. But those people can't handle that stuff at all. And there's things that they can eat that I probably can't handle, you know? So, I mean, you have to look at some of those kinds of things too. So sugar water, that's it. Remember, many vitamins are fat soluble. So you got to have a little bit of fat in them if you're going to get that. So this is the same problem that we talked about before. If you're drinking vitamin water and it's got these vitamins in it supposedly, but there's no fat to help with the absorption, you're not getting the vitamins anyway. So you're really not getting anything out of it other than sugar. Different colors and flavors of vitamin water contain different vitamins, but overall the benefits are much less than the harm of the sugar and calories. The solution, if you want to eat vitamins, eat them natural in fresh ingredients like fruits and vegetables, and you don't need the artificial drinks. Easier said than done sometimes, right? Convenience dictates what we eat, and that's just the way it is. But hopefully, with what you've learned here tonight, you can start to make some decisions. And this is not all-encompassing. Obviously, there's thousands of foods out there, and you go through the store, and you got to just flip them over and read the packages, right? The good news is, once you've read a package and you kind of understand what's good, then you don't have to read it again. You can kind of pick and choose from what you want. If you shop at Whole Foods or you stay in the organic sections or whatever, you're going to be better off. So just know that, you know, the further it is removed from its original source, the less healthy it is for you. The more processes or the more steps they have to take to make it, the worse off you are. Okay? So if you can eat it close to its natural state, including cooking, you're better off. So your fruits and vegetables, you want to eat them clean, you want to eat them pure. Don't cook them too much, and they'll give you more of your vitamins and things. So. If you keep in mind that eating healthy often means eating foods with a single or very few ingredients, look at foods the way our ancestors did. Look out for processing. Strive for farm fresh or as close as possible with meats and veggies. Sugar is the enemy. One of the things that I was thinking about when I was reading this is eat stuff with one ingredient if you can. Okay? So if you eat chicken and the only thing in it is chicken and it doesn't have antibiotics and it doesn't have those kinds of things in it, you're going to be a lot better off. The same thing is true of your fruits and veggies. You know, try to eat it as close to the way nature made it as possible. And then when you get into foods that are combined foods, the fewer the ingredients, the better. You know, so if you start reading through the list and it's got this long list of chemical terms that you can't remember because you didn't take 3 years of organic chemistry, it's probably not all that good for you. Do we still eat some of that? Yes. And I think in our diet, we get some of that. So if we can limit those things and really strive to keep the good stuff in, it helps flush your body, it helps to cleanse it, it helps keep it clean. And I think enough of you have probably, we've talked about pH before too. These are things that drive your pH. If you're eating clean and green and lean, you're going to get a more alkaline pH out of it, which is less inflammation. And that's going to change everything about you. The way you store fat, the way your arthritis affects you, the way your joints hold up over time. If you're a big bag of acid, things wear out faster, right? You just can't last.
How do you flush the acid?
By eating those foods. So like in our cleanse, a lot of it is, it's a cleanse for like your liver, it cleanses your parasites, it cleanses your cellular structure, and it repairs damage to your stomach and intestinal walls.
How does it cleanse the parasites?
It literally kills parasites.
Really?
If you look through the book in here, there's actually pictures, like people excrete worms after they eat this stuff. So,
We
does
carry,
everybody...
we carry that on a normal basis, you're saying?
You can, if you eat a lot of pork, especially.
Really?
Pork tends to have a higher content of worms than any other food, so that's why they always talk about cooking pork effectively, like really heating it up, because the reason you got to heat pork more than anything else is because you got to kill the worms, you got to kill the stuff that's in it. Now, not all pork is infected. It doesn't all have that. I'm not anti-pork, you know.
Okay.
It's just that meat tends to carry more of that kind of stuff in it than other meats. So you just got to watch that kind of stuff. But
yeah, because they're wallowing in the mud all day.
right. But if you look at if anybody wants to see in the book in here, they actually have photos, and it grosses me out because they have like a Ziploc bag that's all full of these these worms that came out of people, and it's disgusting. But this stuff will kill those things. We've had patients here who've had parasites come out. I did a cleanse, and I tried not to look so close because I didn't really want to know, to be honest with you. But I don't think I had any, and I'm really glad about it. Because it describes in the book what will happen if you had a parasite and you kill it and it comes out, what it will look like. It tells you in the book, this is what to look for to make sure that you...
So
so
that comes with a book that guides you step by step or day by day?
Day by day.
As to what to do and
Yeah.
what to
How long is
expect?
the cleanse?
10 days.
So all you drink or eat is this product?
No, you eat other food too, but
Oh, I see.
this particular cleanse, it has supplements in it that cleanse your body, but most of the cleanse actually is from the food you eat. So
Okay.
this is, it has supplements that help with it, but the real cleanse is the foods you eat. And so it's an elimination diet a little bit. The first day you get off like no more milk, no dairy, no that kind of stuff, but you can still have some very lean, I believe, protein like beans, eggs, that kind of stuff, but you're not eating like meat. And then fruits and vegetables. And then like the next day you cut out the protein and you go to fruits and vegetables. And then you cut out the fruits and it's just veggies. Then there's a fasting day. And then you start to add food back in. You get your veggies back, then you get your fruits back, and then you get your clean proteins back. And by doing that, by eliminating and you're taking these supplements to help cleanse your body and these foods, it's going to drive your pH up, hopefully. But the other thing that it does is by eliminating that stuff from your diet and then you add it back in, you can see how it affects your body. Like one of the things I learned is I thought I had zero milk problems. Like I've been drinking milk my whole life. I've got a Dutch background. We were made of milk. So I thought no big deal. But what I found out, and Dr. Vince actually helped me, is I used to eat yogurt in the morning because I wanted to get a little bit of the culture and I wanted to get a little bit of the protein from it, and I just liked it. But I found out that if I ate milk fat early in the morning, I get sluggish in the afternoon. It was too much sugar in the morning for me, just the way my body reacted to it. And so if I eat it later in the day, I don't get that much of a problem. But if I ate it for breakfast, I got a little sluggish mid-morning and at noon. And I found that out by doing my cleanse. And since then, I'm eating a lot less dairy anyway, just because I'm learning more about this kind of stuff. But so you can kind of learn like how your body reacts to different foods. Have you done?
I did.
Yeah. Did you kind of find that to be true?
I did.
Yeah.
You did the cleanse?
I did. I liked it, actually. It's one of those things where you hear horror stories from
Right.
other ones. So I was kind of nervous, but I went into it with the right attitude, and I enjoyed it. I lost 8 pounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That,
And you just, it kind of kickstarts you into that whole natural eating.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a good point. You asked me how long does the cleanse last? Ideally for the rest of your
Right.
life.
Mhm.
Because the actual box kit
Yeah.
is 10 days. But it'll change the way you see food and the way you eat food. One of the things it did for me is I had gotten to the point where I didn't really like certain fruits. Like I didn't like apples anymore. They just didn't taste good to me. After I did my cleanse, apples tasted good again. So you
Oh,
actually,
really?
you develop a taste for natural foods again. And I started noticing that I really liked like green vegetables and stuff again. But we just get so much chemical stuff in our bodies, your body learns to crave that and want it. And when you flush it out and get rid of it finally, your body actually really wants good stuff. And it tastes good, you'll crave it. It's really good for you. So a cleanse can be a very good thing. I'm glad you had a good
Are
experience.
you
yeah,
running
yeah. I
a Super
wanna do it
One
again.
special today?
We have all kinds of good deals today, Brad, but that doesn't have to be one of them. Sorry. But it is a cool thing, and if anybody wants to talk about a cleanse, we can talk about it. You said you'd heard horror stories.
Well, other products, not this
Oh,
product.
okay,
Yeah.
yes. And usually, I anyway, like when people come to me and they want to do a cleanse, I do try to scare them just a little bit, just because it's not something you take lightly, though.
No.
It's 10 days. It's kind of a serious thing, and if you're used to eating whatever, whenever, you may, for the first time in your life, have to plan what you eat during a day, and that was the most difficult part for me. Is at the time I was commuting and I was driving and I had to get up early or go the night before and pack my food, and I had to go to the store and think about what I was buying and prepare it and have it ready. But it's really not so bad, especially if you like to eat veggies and if you can, you know.
Radish is considered a veggie?
There's a whole list in there of what veggies you can and cannot eat, because not even all vegetables are acceptable, you know. So he pushes a lot of like the dark green veggies. So your spinach, kale, certain lettuces and stuff. Broccoli is huge. bell peppers and those types of things are very cleansing.
So that's probably eaten in the raw state and not necessarily sauteed with olive oil
No.
or
cheese.
cranberries with your kale.
No, you're getting away from a lot of that stuff.
Okay.
And so, yeah, you're eating a lot of it raw during that time, and that's for that cleansing effect. Now, he
Uh-huh.
does say if you absolutely can't eat it raw, you can lightly steam it just to give it a little
Okay.
bit. But you're really pulling away from a lot of that processing.
So like during that cleanse, I came a few weeks ago when Dr. Thad was doing the smoothies.
Yeah,
Can you do your veggies
sure.
in the smoothie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I just find it's easier for me to get the quantity in a big cup instead of sitting down eating all day long.
Right.
Some days I have a hard time getting to eat, sit down and eat lunch, and that, so.
And that's one of the things I found, and I hope you did too, is that I really wasn't hungry during the cleanse because they encourage you to eat as much of the veggies as you can. Like, eat a bunch. Like,
Yeah.
so you shouldn't really be hungry. It's just that you're eating different foods. So, it's not a starvation thing at all. But a lot of people do lose weight, and it's not because you're starving. It's because you're getting all the garbage out of your system.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I lost 12 pounds when I did mine. 14 is not uncommon, but it's not a weight loss program. So don't buy this because you want to lose weight. If you want to get healthy, it's a good thing. I'm not here just to sell you a cleanse tonight, but it is a really cool thing. But it's kind of intense. For 10 days, you got to really be serious about. And I often tell people if they come in that day and they say, "Oh, a cleanse? That sounds good. I'll take it home and start tonight." Go home and read the book. Think about it, plan it out, go to the store, give yourself 8 or 10 days to really gear up for it. Don't put it over your birthday, don't put it over Christmas, don't put it at, I had a guy actually do it at Thanksgiving, and he did it. Like,
Wow.
I
he
did
skipped.
it between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Did you really? I think that's a really great time to do it actually because Dr. Vince will talk a lot about sick season, and it starts in Halloween. A lot of people start getting sick at Halloween because of all the sugar ingestion, and then you hit Thanksgiving, and then you hit Christmas. And if you notice, so many people are sick at Christmas
Yeah.
time, it's because they started at Halloween and they started eating garbage, and they didn't quit until after Christmas. And then New Year's kicks in, and the resolution goes, and everybody starts to get on the bandwagon, and they get healthy again. The sick season starts in October, so it's a great time to do a cleanse. I did mine in August because it was a good time to get fresh fruits and vegetables. Farmers market's still open, you can still get
That was
things
hard.
like, what's that?
That was hard. It was
Yes.
Thanksgiving and Christmas trying to get fresh veggies.
Yeah, and now I do think though with like Whole Foods being
It's
here,
gonna
it's
help.
gonna be a lot
A lot
easier to get
different.
that kind of
Yeah.
stuff, to get organic, decent stuff. But yeah, when I did it, I could still get fresh